Imagine discovering that one of the world's biggest oil-producing countries couldn't produce enough fuel for its own people. At first, that sounds ridiculous. It's like owning a farm and buying food from your neighbors, or sitting beside a river and paying for water. Yet for decades, that was the reality of Nigeria. Every single day, crude oil flowed from deep beneath Nigerian soil. Massive tankers carried it across oceans. The country earned billions of dollars from exports and became one of the most important oil producers on earth. But there was a problem hidden beneath all that wealth. The oil leaving Nigeria wasn't ready to power cars, buses, factories, or airplanes. It was crude oil, raw and unprocessed. To become useful fuel, it needed to be refined. And that's where the story takes a strange turn. For years, much of Nigeria's crude oil was shipped abroad, refined in foreign countries, and then sold back to Nigeria as petrol and diesel. Think about that for a moment. The country was buying back products made from its own oil. Every year, billions of dollars left the economy to pay for imported fuel. When fuel prices rose globally, Nigerians felt the impact immediately. Transportation became more expensive, businesses faced higher costs, and families struggled with rising prices. And despite being an oil giant, Nigeria remained heavily dependent on fuel imports. It was a system many people complained about, but few believed could be changed. Then one man decided to challenge it. His name was Aliko Dangote. Long before becoming famous globally, Dangote built something unusual. While many African businesses focused on importing and trading, he focused on producing cement, sugar, salt, flour, factories, and industrial plants. Businesses that made real products used by millions of people every day. Year after year, his empire expanded, and eventually he became Africa's richest man. But wealth wasn't what made Dangote different. What made him different was how he saw problems. Where others saw obstacles, he saw opportunities. And Nigeria's fuel problem kept bothering him. Why should an oil-producing country depend on imported fuel? The answer was not simple. Building a refinery is one of the most complex industrial challenges in the world. So complex that even governments struggle with it, and many private companies avoid it entirely. But Dangote became convinced Nigeria needed one. Not a small refinery. Not a medium one. The largest refinery Africa had ever seen. To many, it sounded impossible. But he pushed forward, because the issue wasn't just fuel, it was value. For generations, Africa exported raw materials and imported finished products at higher prices. Dangote believed that had to change, and oil refining became his answer. The project was built near Lagos. The vision was massive, a facility capable of processing hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude oil per day, enough to supply Nigeria and beyond. But it wasn't just a refinery. It was an industrial city. Roads, ports, power systems, storage facilities, pipelines, housing, and global engineering teams all had to come together. Then reality hit. Delays. Costs. Engineering problems. What began as ambition turned into one of the most expensive industrial projects in African history. $5 billion. $10 billion. $15 billion. Eventually over $20 billion. Critics asked hard questions. What if it failed? What if oil prices collapsed? What if demand changed? But construction continued. Slowly, the impossible began to take shape. Steel towers rose. Storage tanks appeared. Pipelines stretched across the land. And the question changed from can it be built to what happens if it works? Because if it worked, it wouldn't just change Nigeria. It would change how Africa thinks about value creation. For decades, oil left. Money left. Fuel came back. The refinery was designed to break that cycle. Energy powers everything in transport, industry, agriculture, trade, and growth. And whoever controls energy infrastructure controls economic momentum. But this story goes beyond oil. It's about a bigger question Africa is beginning to ask. What happens when raw materials are processed locally instead of exported? Oil, gas, gold, diamonds, minerals. Africa has them all. The challenge has always been value retention. The Dangote Refinery became a symbol of trying to change that, not because it solves everything, but because it attempts something most avoided for decades. No single project can transform a continent. But some projects change what people believe is possible. And that may be the real impact here. Not just oil. Not just fuel. But a shift in thinking, a belief that Africa can build, refine, and create value at scale. Because in the end, prosperity isn't just about what you have. It's about what you build from it. Africa Decoded, stories behind power, business, and the future of Africa. Subscribe for more untold stories shaping Africa's future.